memory company called Rambus, designing fast memory chips. I had early in the cloud years, I had a video analytics startup with a couple of folks, and then I worked at Roche doing DNA sequencing software, high performance computing pipelines. And these days I'm working with a number of AI initiatives, and one of them is called NLIP, the NLIP project. And I'm going to talk about the goals of NLIP. This is an opportunity for me to share what we're doing. Oh, I'll try to, I'll work with Tim to share this presentation, thank you, Oleg, in an appropriate place. So Tim and I will take that after. Yeah, and so we've been working on an interoperable communication protocol for agents, and I'm going to talk about that. And then I did this kind of neat integration, or we did, with AllyCat. AllyCat is an AI alliance project. It's in the GitHub. It's a RAG application. And I'm going to show how incorporating an NLIP, using NLIP as a server for the AllyCat application makes it more useful and is a good way to illustrate our goals here. And so NLIP, Natural Language Interaction Protocol, we're promoting it for the interface between applications that people use, whether it's text or voice, talking to agents, talking between agents, talking directly to agents, and I'll show how this all comes together in the demonstration. So a little bit about the project the project organization, excuse me, of NLIP. It's formally registered as an ECMA Technical Committee 56, and so we're working across member companies. We have IBM, Cisco, ServiceNow, we have university representatives, and we're working to have standard documents to describe the interaction protocol, but with contributions across the industry. And so we think that this differentiates us from some of the other frameworks and protocols that are maybe governed by one major company. So that's a formal committee, but then the weekly meetings are organized under a more open AI research community called the Enterprise Neurosystem that has over 190 participants from 30 companies, and NLIP development meetings are held under the umbrella of the Enterprise Neurosystem, and those are open. So we have lots of members, lots of people contributing to this. So what is NLIP? So we want to standardize natural language interactions across agent implementations. So if you consider that, an agent prototype, this is a sketch I put together, some of the elements of an agent, there's an LLM. The LLM is understanding natural language text and prompts. In a lot of ways, LLMs and agents are implementing what used to be business logic in applications prior. An agent usually has a conversation history, and it can have tools and prompts and resources. Sometimes those are externalized over MCP. And then NLIP hangs out on the left. That's the input-output channel. And NLIP is a protocol for having that many-turn conversation with text, pictures, and audio. And we want to standardize that so that many agents can all speak that same protocol. So what's in an NLIP message stream? Here I'm showing a chat application that a user might be using. And the types of data are text, media like audio, images, and video, documents, structured information. And in some ways, the base NLIP message, it's similar to messages that are present in a large number of other toolkits, and they're all slightly different. And we think that the world will be a better place if we standardize message formats for agent-to-agent communication in an open way. And just this way that HTTP and HTML made possible browsers to interact with all sorts of services instead of having bespoke applications for different things. Having an interoperable agent protocol will help everyone. So yeah, this is why standardize. We believe that users will work with many agents. I think that we're working towards the idea that, one day I'll have a personal agent, and that personal agent or agents may reach out to other agents to perform tasks, to solve problems. And we need an interoperable way for those agents to have conversations. It'll benefit everyone. Agent developers will have one external interface, and app developers and user interface developers can just use one interface on the back end. So that's our goal. Okay, so what's AllyCat? AllyCat is a RAG application. It's a really great tutorial sort of application put together and published by the AI Alliance. It teaches how to create a vector database, scrape a website, and build a knowledge base that you can interact with. So with NLIP, we have, so what did I do? So the very first thing, I took the AllyCat project and wrapped it in an NLIP server. Now our NLIP project, we have example code for servers, for clients, for user interfaces. And so with a minimal amount of work, the AllyCat project became a little bit more friendly. So it was now served over a port. We have a nice chat interface that understands how to recognize formatted text and code blocks, and so you get sort of a pretty interface instead of working with it in a terminal window. And so immediately AllyCat is part of this ecosystem of the SDK clients and servers and chats. So that's a small benefit. But by giving it an NLIP interface, it then becomes easy to set it up in an agent-to-agent framework. So now that we have an NLIP interface, the chat application can talk to it, but we can also use it for agent-to-agent. And so here's the configuration. Now that we have AllyCat, I'm going to demonstrate how this multi-agent system works. So the AllyCat agent is over here. This is the AI Alliance reference code. I've wrapped it in an NLIP server and exposed an NLIP endpoint, which is a standard. And for this demo, I also made a weather agent. And the weather agent has a tool. It can contact weather.gov to get a forecast for an area or to find out if there are alerts. And then I built an NLIP coordinator agent, and this is its components. It has a prompt that tells it how to be an NLIP coordinator, and has a tool, and the tool calls our NLIP clients that are part of our SDK. So this is a pattern that's emerging. That's agent as a tool. In this case, the tool is our NLIP SDK. And so this coordinator agent, it's speaking NLIP on the front to talk to the person, and it's speaking NLIP on the back for agent-to-agent interactions. All right, so just to zoom in on the detail of the weather agent using this schematic form, the weather agent keeps a conversation history. It has an LLM, and it knows how to call weather.gov to get a forecast. It's also given a prompt that tells it how to be an NLIP agent. In the AllyCat agent, there's a website called McLaren Labs that I'm affiliated with that is music and MIDI. So it knows about MIDI interfaces and programming. And that was the database that I made. And then there's an NLIP prompt. All right, so in some agent-to-agent interactions, for example, A to A, there's a special protocol for registering an agent and finding it and interacting with it. And one way to do agent-to-agent with NLIP, excuse me, is to augment the NLIP protocol with prompts that teach the agents how to be NLIP agents and teach an NLIP coordinator how to be an NLIP coordinator. So every NLIP agent is augmented with a prompt instruction that tells it how to expose its NLIP capabilities, so that when someone asks it, what are your NLIP capabilities, it responds. The coordinator agent, which is the one that's going to be talking to other agents, it's augmented with additional prompt instructions like how to use the client, how to query a remote agent for its NLIP capabilities, and how to associate a friendly name with a URL so that we can start talking to it by name instead of URLs. So let me show you what some of these prompts look like. So for the agents that are not the coordinator, that are just client agents, this is some of what we feed to it as instructions. It says you are an NLIP agent. Define what NLIP is, and then we give it some rules. An NLIP agent, when defined, is given a system instruction that describes its unique capabilities. All right, and then we're telling it one of the first requests an NLIP agent will be asked to fulfill is to describe its NLIP capabilities. And then we give it some very specific instructions. We said when you are asked to describe your NLIP capabilities, you should respond with this response, where you tell what your name is and then describe your capabilities. All right, so we're teaching the NLIP agents how to respond to a capabilities request using natural language and using natural language as a transport over the NLIP protocol. Now for the NLIP coordinator, we gave it additional instructions. And here's an excerpt of it. It said, you're an advanced NLIP agent with the capability to speak to other agents. Okay, you have two tools for this purpose. Connect to server, that allows the agent to make, this is our standard client, whether it's in the chat app or in an agent. Connect to server by URL, and a tool called send to server that sends a message over that agent. And then we give it some very specific instructions to implement a handshake that retrieves the capabilities of attached agents. And so here are some of the rules. When you are asked to connect to a server at a specific URL, use the connect to server tool with that URL to establish a connection. Okay, this is the first part. And then the next part, if that connection is successful, then the connection is valid. And for a valid connection, you, the coordinator, should follow the connect to server tool call with the tool call send to server with the question, what are your NLIP capabilities? So we've taught the NLIP agents how to respond about what their capabilities are. Now we're teaching the coordinator how to ask about those capabilities. And then we give it some more instructions. We say the remote agent will respond with its name and capabilities. Take note of the name so that a human can use that in a more familiar way instead of talking to the URL. All right. So that's the setup. So here now I'm going to show some examples of interactions in this agent network using our chat interface, speaking NLIP from the chat interface to the coordinator and also between the coordinator and the other agents. So we're building an agent network. Okay, so yeah, so the user input's in blue, the assistant output is in gray. I connected to an NLIP coordinator that I put in an ngrok endpoint. And the first question was, hello, please describe your NLIP capabilities. Now, all NLIP agents know how to respond to this. And so the coordinator says, my name is Margaret, and I have the capability to talk to other NLIP agents, and here's how. Okay, that's great. So now, please connect to the URL HTTPS McLaren. That's the AllyCat agent that scraped the McLaren Labs website. And so the coordinator says, okay, I'll do that for you right away. And I've enabled showing the tool calls so we can see what's going on behind the scenes here. And so our coordinator agent says, I'm going to call connect to server with the URL of the AllyCat agent. And the agent and the coordinator says, okay, I've connected successfully. Now I'm going to find out your NLIP capabilities. And so it sends that query. And so it says that the name of that agent is McLaren Labs and has the capabilities, can't see all of it, natural language, it knows about MIDI. So now that remote agent is known as McLaren Labs and it's part of our conversation history. And now we can talk to it in the coordinator. And so I say, hey, can you ask McLaren Labs what RTP MIDI is? And it says, great, I'm going to ask McLaren Labs what RTP MIDI is. And McLaren Labs says RTP MIDI is a protocol for transmitting MIDI over a network using UDP. So, you know, we've added this one agent that has specialized knowledge about MIDI into our coordinator session, and we can talk to it. Just notice that, we connected to it by a specific URL. I think there's an interesting application of Project Nanda here. Project Nanda is cataloging agents by specialized capabilities and what it can do. And so in the future, we may say, hey, find an agent that knows about MIDI, and maybe we talk to it by context rather than by its URL. So, okay, let's add another agent into our session. And so I said, hey, please connect to HTTPS weather at sheffler.ngrok.io. That's where it was sitting. And once again, the coordinator goes through the handshake. It says, I'm going to call a tool to connect. It sees that the connection is valid. It says, now that I've connected, let's ask about the NLIP capabilities. And it does, and says, oh, I found out this agent is named weather, and it has two capabilities. And this is a little bit interesting. One is get weather forecast. This agent called weather can retrieve weather forecasts for any location, but requires latitude and longitude coordinates to do so. Now this is that. Remember that. That's going to be interesting in just a minute. The other thing it can do is get weather alerts by state. Okay, so now that the weather agent is part of our session and part of our history, I can say, hey, can you ask the weather agent what the forecast for Chicago is? Now, remember that the weather agent said its capability is it knows forecasts, but it knows it by latitude, longitude. And so what that agent did, it exposed a weather API by coordinates, and it did it by natural language. So instead of needing a JSON format that says I need weather with a latitude and longitude, we now have two agents talking to each other, exchanging sort of a natural language schema or constraints on what it can take, and the coordinator agent is going to figure this out. And so our coordinator tells us, it says, okay, I'm going to ask the weather agent, but I noticed that it requires latitude and longitude, and our coordinator is built with Claude right now, and it knows how to look up the latitude and longitude of Chicago. So that's what it sends to the weather agent. It says, what is the weather forecast for Chicago at coordinates, latitude and longitude? And then the forecast comes back, says today and tonight. And I thought this was kind of interesting because I think that this illustrates a pattern that we believe is going to be more prevalent in the future, in that in communications between devices that are enabled with LLMs and agents that are more powerful enabled with LLMs, we'll be able to communicate using English text, both to describe the constraints on the data types we need to receive, and then to transmit those data types, just as the way that this conversation determined that it needed latitude and longitude instead of a city name. All right, so that's a pretty quick explanation of what the NLIP project is. It showed an integration of AllyCat. What I claimed was that by giving AllyCat an NLIP interface, which is very easy because there are servers and client SDKs out there already, it was really simple to wrap this in NLIP. Then it becomes a tool that's more useful. It can be used by a chat application directly, or it can join other agent networks. And we think that in the future, there are going to be many, many agents, and they'll all want to talk to each other. So some resources: the NLIP project is github.com NLIP project. There's some project overview. There are links to our ECMA documents. AllyCat is at github.com, the AI Alliance AllyCat. It's a really great demonstration and tutorial. I think that I learned a lot working through it, and if you haven't, I'd encourage you to just try it out. It's really simple, and it's kind of cool. And then some of our tools: the NLIP project, the agents I showed here, NLIP agents, and our chat interface, Kiwi Client Mach 2, and that's it. So yeah, questions, comments. That's it.
Thank you so much. I'm putting the link to your GitHub into the chat. Thank you, Gautam. Yeah, thanks so much. All right, let's go through questions. So here's the first one. It's a good one from Jakub. Don't get me wrong, but what's wrong with MCP as your use case can be done easily with MCP?
Well, it can, right? But MCP would be a way to hook in the client tool that calls another agent. But MCP on the one side, you still need to have the schema of what's being exchanged on the other side, right? So an MCP tool calls tools with arguments. It doesn't define what those downstream agents are exporting. So let's say I built, let me show you the picture. So let's say I built this coordinator agent with the tools as MCP tools. You still need to define what is being served over here in an interoperable way so that the tool can call. And so I think MCP is, oh, I'm sorry. I'm just talking and pointing to my screen. Sorry, let me back up. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, so where I believe MCP sits, MCP is a way to externalize tools from an agent. So instead of this tool being inside, there's this serialization of arguments. And so you could wrap you could wrap a client to make remote agent calls, but you still need to define what this protocol is. And you need to define how this agent over here is serving up its information so that an MCP tool can call it. And so MCP could be in my view, MCP could be an implementation strategy to call a tool that exchanges data over the internet, but we still need to define that format, and we need to define it in an interoperable way. And we need to standardize it. And our project's goal is to do that in a very open way with contributions from lots of people.
Great, thank you. Next question from Jose John. How is NLIP different from Google Agent to Agent A2A protocol?
Yeah, great question. Thanks. So A2A has some similar goals. Where I would place it, A2A is set up for a specific sort of interaction model, and that is to spawn a task on a remote agent and retrieve artifacts, basically the result of a task. So that's subtly different, and there's two ways that it's different. So the NLIP protocol, we envision being used more for multi-turn conversations, not just a single fire and retrieve. We think that these are going to be multi-turn conversations happening, like I showed, where the agent said, "Hey, I need latitude and longitude," and the first agent says, "Oh, great, I can format that for you." But what I showed in this demonstration was that instead of A2A, part of its integration is a special, an HTTP protocol to retrieve the agent card and get its capabilities. And what I explored in this demo is that maybe you don't need that. Maybe you can do that in natural language in the protocol itself. And so what we did here, the NLIP agents are taught how to expose their capabilities, and that handshake that's handled in a special way by A2A is handled directly in our NLIP protocol with natural language augmented with data types. And we think that a natural language interface augmented with the ability to have text and video and structured data, that as a general purpose mechanism will be ultimately more powerful. But I think that A2A has solved. I think A2A is great. Don't get me wrong. But I think that there's still more interesting work to be done in figuring out how we connect agents together and how they exchange information. So I don't think A2A is the end of the story. I think it's one very, very good story, and I think there will be more. That's just my opinion.
Thank you. Great. No, opinions are good.
Yeah.
All right, Lady Calamity.
Hi, Calamity.
I guess AllyCat will be locally on the edge and communicate maybe through MCP server LMs.
I didn't quite hear that. Let me see. Locally on edge and communicate maybe through MCP servers. So AllyCat, AllyCat is it's a demonstration program, but I think it's interesting to think about a world in which many websites expose their knowledge base over an interface that can be queried. So perhaps AllyCat servers will be run on an NLIP standard endpoint of websites one day. You can talk directly with websites using NLIP, or maybe yeah. There's a bunch of noise. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah.
I just muted someone, so
okay.
It should be better.
Yeah. So that's so that I think it's an interesting world to think about. If websites expose, in addition to their normal website, they expose an AllyCat instance on the NLIP standard endpoint, which is website/NLIP. And then you could chat to it. You could chat to it directly using a chat app like I showed, or connect it into your agent networks and build networks of knowledge bases that can talk to each other using natural language.
Let me
Wait. And then we have another one. This is, you might want to take, actually, I don't know if you recognize the paper. So Kirtika asks if this project is based on a particular paper. So maybe check out the link. I haven't.
Yeah. Yes, my name is on that paper.
Oh, okay.
So the answer is yes. So yeah, we published this paper. We've been working on this for about a year, and if you here, let me just share that so the people can see. All right, so it's called an overview of the natural language interaction protocol. There's my name. But I think what's this paper is nice because it lays out the goals of the project, and where we see the need and what we're shooting to. And so and then you can also see some of the members we have. We have Red Hat, University of Michigan, Purdue, Fordham, SRI, Cisco, IBM, University of Delaware, Penn State, Indiana, University of Buffalo. So we have a lot of different representatives bringing together knowledge from many different backgrounds, and we're working to we're doing the best we can to standardize an interaction protocol, standardize endpoints, standardize transports over HTTP, WebSockets, and AMQP. We're working on a document for what it means to have a secure NLIP agent. So there's two levels. So there's the NLIP protocol. How do you transport messages and data types over standard endpoints or standard protocols? But then for agents that expose NLIP, what does it mean for them to be secure? And so we have some recommendations of, we'll have a paper coming out soon about that. So there's transport security, there's authentication, and then there's agent safety issues that we identify. We don't solve, but we identify that ideally an NLIP agent would adhere to one day. So that's what we're working towards.
Awesome.
But yeah, thanks for putting that paper up. And is there a tool tryout available for the weather agent update? Sure, it's all on GitHub. And if you and if you can't find it, you can reach out to me directly, tom.sheffler@gmail.com. Happy to talk to anyone about this stuff. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and for those of you who want to learn more about AllyCat, so AllyCat is a getting started hello world project, basically, that we put together to help people to get get hands-on quickly with some of the tools in the project that we have in the AI Alliance. So you should definitely check out the GitHub. I think shared the link earlier. There's also, we hosted a bunch of office hour sessions like today's on AllyCat. So you can see, if you go to our YouTube, you'll find at least 3 or 4 talks that go into more depth on what AllyCat is and what it does. And the idea is really to build it out into, I think we recently added, it started as a RAG integration. We recently added GraphRag, I believe. So yeah, it's slowly evolving, and it's open for community contributions. So if you're interested in helping us build this out further, just feel free to join the project and get in touch. Yeah, how to join the project. If you're in, like, basically, let me just share my email address again, because why not? And do we have any other questions? I'm looking through the chat here. Yeah, how to join the NLIP project. That's for Tom.
Oh, I should have presented that. Let's see if we have that on. Well, go to our website, go to the GitHub, NLIP project, and there's a contact at nlip-project.org. You can send us email. We meet weekly at Pacific time, Wednesday at 8 o'clock. That's the open calls, and we welcome people to come in and listen, join, contribute their expertise and knowledge, and get involved and help us build this out. Help us. We're getting ready now that we're working right now to standardize the latest versions of the documents, the protocol, the base level message. The protocols are HTTP, WebSockets, AMP-QP, and a security document that we want to submit to ECMA very soon. And we're going to be running, working on more hardened implementations very soon. So get involved, join us, contact at nlip-project.org, and come to our meetings. Thanks.
Excellent.
Any other questions? What about hallucinations or errors? Yeah, so I think that's really, I mean, I think that's a really interesting question. I don't think that that's limited to NLIP in particular. I mean, NLIP is a transport that you can be used to securely transport messages between applications and agents in a interoperable way. But you know what I showed here, but I think it's a really good question and really interesting. You know, I showed very direct interactions with the coordinator. Go talk to this agent to ask this question, and it figured out a little bit of stuff. But I think, you know, it's interesting to think in a future where, as we add an agent to the conversation or the network, that a coordinator would figure out which agent to talk to and how to do that. And I think that, you know, there's two things. The LLMs are getting better. I personally feel I'm getting better at writing instructions to tell the LLMs how to behave, but I think we're all learning how to do that right now. I'd be interested to hear from other people what their experiences are in prompt engineering. I think I feel like I'm learning how to get better at it to get the results I want. What about you, Francesco?
We're happy to.
I have not used those.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Oh, so hi, Francesco. You had asked about hallucinations and errors, and I just rambled a little bit about my with my experiences of getting better at writing prompts to more accurately get the results that I want. And I was wondering if you had any insights with your experiences with hallucinations or errors, or how you're combating that.
I'm following the research. So there are current research in eliminating hallucinations at the source, at the root of it. Mm-hmm. There are some papers recently from OpenAI and also other paper like Thinking Machine. Also, they are working on it. So I agree with you that in the future we'll have will be more. There will be less, and in particular will be more deterministic. So they can hallucinate in the same way. So or maybe also
right.
If you repeat the same question, they will answer. If there is an hallucination, they answer back the same. But also the direction in which they really eliminate this hallucination. So I agree with you that in the future we will be more appropriate to use the NLP directly. The other point I was mentioning is prompt orchestration markup language. But before that, I'm doing a protocol that mix the structured data and unstructured with some bridge between these two way of interacting. Mm-hmm. The other question is this POML. Not sure if you are familiar with this prompt orchestration markup language. Which is your assessment of this? If you are not aware, maybe next time we can discuss about it. I'm curious to see how this language could be related to your current proposal. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I'll take a look at it. Very, very interesting to see if can interoperate or one can carry the other. But yeah, I'll take a look. Great. So is there another question? Is there an MCP implementation for either AllyCat or NLIP currently? There is not that I'm aware of. But there could be. Yeah, so I think it would be an interesting project to maybe take what I showed here today. And I wrote that in the demonstration that I showed here, our agents were written. They're very slim, and the tools are directly embedded in Python. But they could be, the tools and prompts could be externalized over MCP, which would make it really interesting. Then the NLIP capabilities could be used in other things like Claude Desktop. Claude Desktop could become NLIP aware and then talk to the AllyCat agent on the internet and learn about MIDI that way.
Nice. All right, I think we went through. I think we covered. Not all of the questions. Yeah, let me put one more time in case you missed it because you were paying so good attention to the talk. The list of resources that you can use to learn more about these and get engaged.
Yeah, let me show.
I just put it in the chat. So yeah, so we're if you're not already following us, check us out. Check out.
There's that. There's.
Yeah, there's yours. Perfect. Thank you. Great.
Those are some places to get started. And I know Tim wanted me to. I'll work with Tim after the fact to find out how to share this my presentation.
Yeah, we follow up email to all the registrants with these resources that we have to share. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Tom. This is great. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoy having the opportunity to talk about the work we're doing at NLIP. and to, give a glimpse of where we think it might be headed.